welcome to our first commission meeting of 2025.
Yay.
Yay. All right, we'll start with roll call. Krista Kananen, present and tardy. Ned Dorr.
Present.
Alder Joy Presley.
Here.
Jenny Brinker.
Present.
Julie Nordyke. Present. Amy Cox.
Present.
Mark Walter.
Here.
Danielle Beal.
Present.
And Corey Lim.
Present.
It threw me off. Does it always say staff person on you?
I think it does. Does.
Melissa, do we not have to call you in roll call?
That is correct.
Okay. You're not here. Okay. Excellent. Then first up, do we have anyone willing to move that we approve the commission meeting agenda for today?
We'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so approved. Next up, we'll approve our minutes from December's meeting. Anyone willing to make a motion in that regard?
To approve.
Second, can I second? All right, I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved, approved. All right, next up, we have announcements. We have a public input meeting for the East River Van Beaver Park Flood Resiliency Project and Master Plan on January 23rd, 2025.
Oh, thank you.
From 6 to 7 at Sullivan Elementary. You want to say anything else about that, Melissa?
I would just say that it's in the school library. Corey, Mem, and I are actually co-presenting at the public input meeting. And this is to go through several of the flood resiliency concept and alternatives for the park, as well as incorporating that into an overall master plan for the park. And it is in person at Sullivan Elementary. Corey, was there anything that you wanted to add to that?
No, I don't know if it's before or after the meeting, the concepts will be available on our website.
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
So if anybody wanted to reach out to Melissa or myself, regarding what those concepts show, if they want to provide input that way too, that's another way of.
Yeah.
If you can't be there in person that evening, or if anybody wants to give us input before that meeting or after, we're happy to include it.
And the 23rd is a week from today, next Thursday.
Correct.
Awesome. All right. Next announcement. Oh, I clicked on something. Zero Me, subsidiary of US Venture, is hosting an event called Wisconsin Sustainability Connect at their Green Bay office. So that's the one in Titletown on February 4th from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. It's open to anyone. It's free. It's statewide. The goal is to explore solutions, share ideas, and forge connections to drive impact. Zero Me is like an employee engagement tool. So they will be promoting their product there. But kind of an opportunity to connect with sustainable business leaders if anyone's interested. The registration link is provided. I don't have anything else to say about it. It's my announcement. Anyone have any questions? All right, then I'll move on to the Wisconsin Landscape Pesticide Registry. So or maybe you want to speak to that one. I feel like I'm gonna not do it justice.
Yeah, this is for anybody who wants to be notified what if their neighboring property is going to be, if there's a commercial pesticide application, and this resource requires anybody who's like doing it professionally, applying these pesticides would have to reach out to you 12 hours in advance before applying the chemicals. And so it's really, I believe you can do it for like residential and businesses. So if for whatever reason you want to know when those are being applied to adjacent properties commercially, this resource, you know, helps you to register, and then they reference it and notify you. I'm actually not 100% sure how they notify you, whether it's by mail, phone, I'm not entirely sure. I think you provide your address and phone number, and assuming if it's only 12 hours notice, you probably have to, I'm sure you can't mail that quickly. So it might be email or phone or something. The registration deadline is February 1st. And I did try mailing it last year myself. And then I was not notified when there was an application done. And so I called and they said I wasn't actually registered. So the person I spoke to said, you're probably better off trying to register online than doing it by mailing. For whatever reason, it didn't get to them, or I don't know. So I would say you're likely to be more successful if you do the online registration, because I did get a confirmation email this year doing it that way. So,
And that's the link. Here is
yeah.
the registration link.
correct.
So you won't get notified if you don't register. You do register by the deadline, you'll get notified before there's an application.
Exactly. And it's a annual registration. So you have to make sure to register every year if you want to continue to be notified. So
That's not make it easy. Okay. It's harder to unsubscribe from basically anything. Any questions or comments on that one? All right, on to regular business. We have, if you have your agenda in front of you, I encourage you to take a look at the meeting schedule for 2025. There are some alternate dates, so non-standard dates, meeting dates for 2025. I know Melissa mentioned this due to some scheduling conflicts. Some commission meetings are on Thursday following the normally scheduled Wednesday. What would be the normally scheduled Wednesday?
Is that my fault?
Just scheduling conflicts.
Yeah.
And it's not loading for me to read the dates at this moment. Does anyone need me to, thanks, does anyone need me to read the dates before we vote on, are we voting on whether to approve them?
Are they the same as you emailed us, Melissa? That hasn't changed, 'cause that's what I used to update my
Yes.
calendar. Okay,
Yes.
great, I'm okay.
Me too, actually, which is why I don't have it pulled up. Like, I bet I could find the email more quickly. There, okay. Okay, so it looks like January, June, and November, October and November, meetings are bumped to Thursday. So with that in mind, any input or discussion on the meeting schedule as proposed?
I will motion to approve it.
I'll second it, now that I know I can. All in favor of approving the 2025 meeting schedule?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, schedule approved. All right, next up, we had some casual conversation after our December meeting. And I actually have since also met with someone who's on the De Pere Sustainability Commission. And it sounds like it's not uncommon among all of us that we haven't necessarily gotten all of the information about, maybe just haven't pieced it together about like, what are we doing here as the Sustainability Commission, and what's the best way to get things done? And if we have an idea, how do we bring that up? So we wanted to take the first meeting of 2025 to just kind of run through some of those things. Melissa shared with me, kind of leading up to this, a few things that I found incredibly helpful and really helped me put all of the pieces together about what we're doing here. And so you'll see these attached, in your agenda. And we just kind of wanted to run through them and like kind of high level and talk about how they work together. So the Sustainability Commission was established by ordinance in 2018. The ordinance is linked in the agenda. You know, a few things that stand out to me is one, the primary scope of this commission is focused around environmental sustainability. So sustainability can be considered more broadly than that. But this one is focused on environmental impacts. We also are intended to advise both city council and the mayor. So appointed by the mayor, voted on by city council. Well, is it okay to call it city council? I know we call it something else.
Oh, common.
Common council, thank you. And so those kind of two goals, right? And Melissa, was your position already established when this was formed? Okay, so my guess is that if this were written again, it might include city staff through the connection with Melissa. I think that's kind of evolved. So really an advisory committee where we would bring our expertise as professionals in the realm of sustainability, to advise the mayor's office, common council, and city staff on how they can improve environmental impact. That's kind of how I would summarize like the goal of what we're doing here. Melissa or anyone else who's been here for a long time, have anything you want to add to that?
Not exactly the beginning, but at
What
the
was that?
close to the
Oh,
beginning.
just,
Just-
sorry. I was just talking to Julia, just asking when she was appointed. I think Ned and I were appointed at the same time, or that original 2018. And interestingly enough, I can't honestly say that I've ever read this ordinance before.
So it's not just me. I thought maybe it was just me.
No, I remember when they were talking about passing it, and I contacted Bill Celestine at that time and asked what the process was to get onto sustainability. She said she'd take care of it.
So really
I
good.
guess I could talk, I mean, I could answer some of that, but I mean, it was set up when a group of individuals in the community met with elected officials, and we talked about kind of the past of Green Bay's focus or lack thereof on environmental sustainability in governmental operations. Long time ago, we had something called the Green Bay Sustainable Task Force. And I was a part of that 2010-ish. It was very loosely organized and kind of just like a place to toss ideas around, and some ideas were really interesting, but there was no teeth to it. So the idea was to create something that would be able to make recommendations to city council formally and actually get environmental topics on the city's agenda that would have to be voted on. So Celestine at the time was the mayor's chief of staff, and if you were interested in serving on the commission, you let her know. And then that was kind of the process, and really the mayor has the ultimate decision of whether he's going to put somebody up for appointment or not. It has to be somebody who lives in the city limits, which we didn't have kind of teased out right at the beginning, but now it is. And then city council has the right to say yes or no to those appointees. So I guess, anybody that's interested in the future could certainly contact the mayor's office. I think that's always a way to let the mayor know that you're interested in serving on a council or on a commission. So, but yeah, I think it's been successful. I think we've gotten a lot accomplished since we became more of a formal group.
For that context, Ned, and for your advocacy to get us to this point. So before we move it on to our work plan, which is kind of, this is the highest level, right? The ordinance that establishes what we do. From there, we've developed a work plan that we update annually. It was last updated. Kind of everyone reviewed it, all the work groups reviewed it in November of 2024, if I remember correctly. So any more discussion on the ordinance or high level? What are we doing here before we move into the specifics of the work plan? Awesome. All right. So the work plan is essentially drafted by the commission, and this is our outline of how we're going to meet the intent of what we've been tasked with in our founding, or in the ordinance that founded this commission. So we review it annually. And then it goes to common council, the mayor, city staff, and it's publicly available. So, citizens of Green Bay can take a look at it. Melissa, how would a citizen go about getting the work plan if they wanted it?
It could be put on the website, the sustainability commit, part of the city's website. It could go there. We put there was a renewable energy work plan drafted several years ago. And I think that's still lingering out there, but, yeah.
Do you need a motion to put that on there? What's the best way to?
Well, what you could do is after this item, with the reviewing of the items, you could word the motion to receive and place on file and post publicly the 2024-25 work plan and make it into one motion.
Okay.
Since the work plan and reviewing the ordinance and the other attachment, which is just the agenda template that I put forth in the last month, they're all bundled together under one item.
Right.
So
I started a little note for myself. If anyone has anything else to add to that motion, we can put together a good motion when we're all done reviewing things. Excellent. Thanks, Melissa. So our work plan outlines and aligns with our work groups. So each work group has a section of the work plan. So the work groups that we have are they're like subcommittees. So we have the clean energy group, climate resilience, healthy habitat for all, waste reduction, marketing and public outreach. And it doesn't look like the most up-to-date version is on here because we also have the youth engagement work plan. That to have the work plan has kind of specified categories that also align with what's outlined in the ordinance, I believe, kind of talking about understanding fiscal impacts related to work, who's going to be doing the work, things like that. So if you're interested in bringing something new to the commission or a new initiative, first thing I would recommend is check the work groups and see if it can fall under the activity of any of the existing work groups. If not, then let's consider starting another work group. I think we can at least annually evaluate if these are the right work groups, if we want to add or remove any. But there's no reason we have to wait until, the review time to add a new work group. If you have an initiative you want to pursue, each one of the work groups identify a point person. And you could go to that point person if it falls under the category of that work group and ask to join that group. Melissa, am I correct in saying that the max work group number is 3, so that we avoid ever having a quorum at subcommittee work group sessions?
But I think some of these work groups have had people outside the commission
Mm-hmm.
sit on them too, so I,
Well, that wouldn't, right, so a
Okay.
max of 3 commissioners.
okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
Of voting commissioners. You know, if a work group decides they want to. You know, leverage the expertise of someone outside of the Sustainability Commission, I think that's perfectly acceptable, and it says in the ordinance, you know.
Mhm.
Working with
Outside parties. or-
outside parties,
Yes.
higher education institutions, things of that nature, so I think that's perfectly acceptable, it's just, you're not voting on anything.
Right, you can have more than 3 participants, just not more than 3 commission member participants to avoid a quorum.
I think wouldn't it be 4? Don't we have 9 members?
Yes,
Yeah, so not more than 4
the
should
nine,
be present.
right, I think it probably depends on how many people we have a full. If there's a full commission or not, depending on, most of the time we have full, all 9.
So usually it would be fine to have 4. Subcommittee members, that I'm hearing,
Yeah.
good
I mean,
clarification.
I
thanks,
think
Jen.
that would be a discussion for your group to decide, because there are quite a few work groups. And if you want good participation, you know, to have 4 people, that's just,
You start to spread yourself thin.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
I agree for that reason. I'm just saying for the walking quorum reason, you know, technically you could have 4, but I don't think we'd ever need to.
That's a really good point of clarification. I mean, for example, Jenny and I had,
Large energy user roundtable.
yeah, as part of our clean energy working group, and Amy was there in her day job capacity. But she was technically a member of the commission, so she and I, like Jenny and I were already thinking, okay. If anyone else wants to come, you know, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna make sure we don't, you know, accidentally have a quorum present? So I mean, I don't think it's a huge deal. I don't think it's gonna come up very often, but I
Yeah,
mentioned
but
it
if there-
because
if,
we've
you know,
thought of it.
And there are ways around that. I mean, if there is a forum that, you know, more than half of the commission wants to go to, intends to go to, you just have to notice it prior to that there may be a quorum of the commission at the meeting. And if they're not, if they are, then you're fine.
Which seems so funny to me, but yes,
But
thank you
it's-
for
Yeah,
pointing
it's
that
part
out.
of, you know, that.
Just don't accidentally all show up somewhere and talk about sustainability stuff. Good, so did I already read the work groups and who leads each one? So maybe we can each work group can just give a little pitch about what you do in your work group. This may be repeat information, but maybe a refresher for some of us. So I'm just gonna go down the list. Jenny, do you want to talk at all about the clean energy work group?
Sure, the Clean Energy Work Group is using the Clean Energy Green Bay Plan as its guiding document, and some of the actions we are doing are tracking and reporting towards that plan and organizing the Business and Industry Working Group, which we will hear a little bit more about, the Large Energy Users Working Group. And yeah, there's some really good bullet points on here that I think have lost priority. Support Clean Energy Connector employee, happy to do that. And provide support for city operational projects upgrades.
And Seth is no longer on this
Yes, I just-
committee, so that's okay, yeah. So there is capacity if someone's interested in contributing to the clean energy work group. Thank you. Next up, climate resilience, and this is Julia's. She's the leader of this one. Can I say anything about it?
Sure. It's really focused a lot on climate related hazards. And that which includes like flooding mostly and storms. It also, this one though, has under it also green stormwater infrastructure too. So even it's under this climate resilience strategy as a climate resilience strategy, but it does, overlap with water resource protection too, but we don't really have that. So this originally started as more of a water resources work group, but it's evolved to be this. So,
Okay, and is that an intentional evolution? You like that evolution? Okay, I wasn't sure if that was, okay.
open to, I'm always open to hear whatever people want to put in it.
So so if you're interested in contributing to this work, talk to Julia. Anything that would fall under the category of, strengthening the community's resilience to climate related hazards, kind of with an emphasis on flooding, but maybe doesn't have to be. That would
And
be.
green stormwater infrastructure.
Yeah, and green stormwater infrastructure, you can bring ideas up to Julia and work with her on seeing how the work group might take on some of that.
Am I allowed to be in a work group? Or is that
Yes,
just
I
short?
think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
And there's no limit on how many work groups a person can be a part of, right? Theoretically, you can be a part of as many as you want and have capacity to.
As far as I know.
Yeah, good. We're glad we could establish that. Anything else on that one? All right, next we have Healthy Habitat for All, and Ned and Corey lead this one. More Ned. Ned leads this one.
Well, Corey's awesome, so I think you should speak to it too, but, yeah, the Healthy Habitat for All, if you are interested in creating healthy corridors for wildlife in the city of Green Bay, and, that includes clean water, clean air, and actual like healthy ecosystems throughout the city, on land as well, then this is kind of what we focus on. I think we do need to update it because a lot of work was done in 2024 toward this end, so I think we can kind of celebrate that and ratchet things up a bit. We did get the pesticide policy in place. As far as the native planting, I know, Melissa, we've kind of talked about that a little bit as far as different language regarding how much should be planted in natives. So that was another success. And then looking at areas to plant for the pollinator corridor. 2024 was a huge year for that. The city officially planted, I think, 50,000 or more plugs last year, which is just phenomenal. And we worked with Green Bay Conservation Corps, or I should say they really led the work on a ton of this stuff last year. So I'd like to see kind of moving forward, adding to that list of partners. I think that it's time that we put Green Bay Public Schools on as a list of partners, as we have had some meetings with them regarding some of these topics. And Melissa has been involved in a lot of the meetings around these things too, so to give her some credit. But it felt like a good year over the last year, and I think we should update it.
Awesome, thanks, Ned.
Yeah, the Green Bay Botanic Gardens too have been a great partner in helping us to get all those plants put into the parks. So I think shout out to them as well.
Oh yeah, they're not on there. Absolutely. You're right.
So it sounds like we should, maybe work group leaders can just review, each of your sections before we post it on the website. So someone can word a motion or help me word a motion as such, when we get to that point, but you don't have to change anything if nothing changed. Just maybe an opportunity to refresh.
Yeah.
Ned, do you meet regularly?
Um, no, I mean there's a lot of work being done here and there, but as far as like formal regular meetings, no, we don't. Um, certainly we could we could try to do that a little better. That might be a goal for this year is to actually establish some regular meetings.
That's a great question. Thanks for asking that. Do you want to share?
Why?
Sure, go for
Well,
it. Or just-
I'm just
yeah.
asking more because I've always thought there's just a lot of overlap between like the nature-based solutions, green infrastructure work and healthy habitat, so, but I also don't meet regularly on this topic,
Yeah.
so in general, so I was just wondering thinking about what's the best ways to maybe engage with that work group, or in general.
Yeah, I think the way that we've been doing things is just like as ideas come up or as project ideas come up, we just kind of talk to each other and like bring in other people who could help make these ideas a reality. So it's been pretty flexible and very much improvised. But so like if you have ideas that you think would cross over, like I mean Melissa and I have had meetings on green infrastructure stuff, right? So like that certainly crosses over into what you do too. It just happened to be like on school areas with park and this and that. So yeah, maybe we should you and I should loop you in better and if you have some ideas, just feel free to get a hold of me.
Is there an opportunity to merge those working groups? Does that make sense or not necessarily just collaborate?
Yeah, I don't think they need to be merged. I
Right,
personally don't
okay.
think,
I
I
didn't know
think
if
they're
that's fair.
separate enough and
Yeah.
they just,
Overlap.
like
Sure,
many
sure.
sustainability topics overlap, so.
Right.
Solutions for healthy
Right.
habitats are also climate resilient solutions.
Mhm.
I agree, like, I'm thinking of like a stormwater BMPs, like say at Farland Park, we just put in for stormwater management. I mean, that includes native plants that tie into the healthy habitats, which aren't even a part of the numbers that Ned mentioned of, native plants that have gone into the parks. So a lot of our projects do, certainly, I think.
Yeah, and even
Tie
like
in.
trees, just regular street trees are really
Right.
important for stormwater.
Yeah.
Street trees. It's been a long day. Very important for stormwater, so those are things that, just greening the city in general is like a major climate resilience strategy. So I think they overlap. Yeah, maybe even put me on your work group and then, I guess we're just like more looped into what we're talking about or doing.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think this, when I have meetings on this stuff, I'll shoot you an email alongside. Or it's, any of us can shoot anybody an email, but if I'm sending something at all, I will include you.
Awesome.
And then did I hear, well, I ran into Laura Bickoway at grocery store last night. She said that the Green Bay schools are starting to work on a sustainability plan. Is that what I?
So, yeah, we have what's called the Clean Energy Committee at the school district, and we are focusing on areas kind of within our control, as far as reducing our carbon impact. But that, doesn't just mean energy projects. We're also looking at how could we use the land better? How can we reduce waste? Things like that. Certainly, we've been meeting now for over a year. And it was something that we proposed in 2020. It was approved. And then like a week after it was approved was when the world shut down. So, kind of had a lot of hiccups and bumps along the way, but we're we're in a good place now, and we've had some consulting done over the last year regarding our climate impact and some of the actions we can take. So yeah, that's been rolling along really well.
Let's see, from, well, way back when, I don't know, I come from a regional background, so I always look at ways different entities can cooperate, and if we've got an overlap like the city and school district doing some of the same work, it seems like there's some synergies there to work together more if possible, because one does rely on the other in a lot of ways, so. There's a lot of.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And Melissa's been a really good partner for the schools, like kind of a good conduit between the city and the schools. So as far as meetings go, I've been inundating her.
Good discussion. All right. In the interest of time, I'm gonna move on to waste reduction, which is all you, Mark.
It's all me, yeah, that's why not much has happened lately, that's because I've been working on the other side of my job more lately, that's taken away from the waste side, but the goals are still there. And certainly, very interested in what happened last meeting, in terms of looking at events and waste reduction, and it's just, in the future, it's gonna be a critical part of reducing our impact, our carbon impact, just getting material out of landfills. In spite of the fact that I work for a landfilling agency, my goal is to reduce the amount of material going into landfills. And the easiest way to do that still is organic waste in some manner. And we had talked about a home composting program. It's a little difficult because of necessity to have some capital investment from the city on that one, so there's some other options. And I had sent, I think, this to Krista and Melissa, that there's a grant program right now through Minnesota where they are providing grant funding, potentially finding, it's called Midwest Environmental Justice Thriving Communities Grant Making Program through Minnesota, that is provides up to $75,000 to capacity constrained communities and community-based organizations, and potentially up to $150,000 to develop a program to start working on reducing waste and seeing what the impediments are, what the processes are, and so forth, that might be an opportunity. The time frame, unfortunately, is really fast. It's the end of January for applications. And I'm not sure that that's even viable with the city, and I just found out about this last week, so yeah, not necessarily able to work forward with some of that, but nonetheless, there's still some opportunities out there. I think the work plan that was put forward about event, waste reduction at events, I think is an incredibly good idea to work with. It's a huge issue in my world. Recycling at events, waste reduction at any kind of outdoor events or indoor events it's horrible. They basically just don't do a good job anywhere. That's nationwide, so we can work on that. I'm always looking for someone to talk to about this, to try to move forward. Corey and I talked a lot last year about compost bin sales, and it just isn't, it's not in the cards at this point. So if there's something else that we can do a little bit more focusing on, I have lots of ideas. But
Mark, do you know any what grants might be available to supplement a home composting bin program?
just to supplement,
Basically to offer them to the community for purchase, but the grant money would be able to offset so that we could offer them like for purchase at a reduced, and then do education around that, around home composting.
well, actually, most of the grant programs that are out there right now are really flexible when you're dealing with organics, to offer programs to the public. But the time frame is a little bit constrained, and there's always a match.
Mhm.
So it would have to be some budget. The EPA has something, USDA, US Department of Agriculture has a cooperative program where they provide technical assistance to help you develop a program that would give, that you can use then to approach the public. Specifically ones that would buy or help subsidize the cost of composting. Not that I'm aware of in those terms, they're more broad.
Mhm.
And just looking at how are we gonna, what are the steps you're gonna take to do waste reduction in a community, and composting is a portion of that.
Mhm.
And there are all sorts of different options. Chicago just started a program last year where they have all their public works sites around the city of Chicago now have drop-off compost, organic drop-off sites. Which is huge city like Chicago, it's working pretty well. We're still talking 50 or 60 tons of waste collected in the matter of a couple of months, which isn't a huge amount considering how much they generate, but still it's a start and it's a thought process to get people to cooperate. So there are a lot of different options. Yeah, it's nothing specifically to that, nothing that I'm aware of that would actually subsidize that program. I know that City of De Pere was, and it still is, subsidizing the cost of home compost collection. They are no longer contracted with composter. They are doing it with their citizens directly.
Right.
So there are other options out there. If I were to go into a program like this, I would probably do some kind of RFP to see who's out there, who's qualified, and who can come up with a solution to what do you do with it at the end of the process? What do you do with the compost? Where does it go? And how do you scale it up to the point where a city can actually make use of the organic material in some manner?
Mhm.
And that's a problem I don't have a solution to yet, but
Yeah.
I know John Arndt and I have talked a lot about this at UWGB, so there's still some options.
So it sounds like the
There's a lot.
waste work group, if anyone is looking for a way to plug in, is a resource constrained work group right now. Some of the specific skills that would be really valuable to you would be grant writing, and some sort of like project management skills that would support the efforts there. Okay.
I would certainly.
Excellent. Thank you for that update. Next work group is marketing and public outreach, led by Corey and Julia.
You haven't talked about a work group.
Okay. Yeah, so the goal, increase visibility of our commission and their goals and their work plan, really trying to, make the community aware of like who we are and the things we support and how can we help support them and find the resources they're looking for and that type of thing. We've done that by hosting tables at events. We were at one of the Levitt
Mhm.
Amp is
You're doing good. Got it. Yep. That's great.
Performances this year at Light Park and the Brown County Library. I'm forgetting the name of that.
Greenfire, Aldo Leopold event.
Yes. So
Which is coming up.
Oh, yeah, good point. Plan that. Some other things we've done is like talked about how could we maybe, create a sustainability page on the city website, which actually now Melissa's a part of a group where it's kind of going to be a more city-based effort, which I think is great. And so I think that's a great step forward in getting people to, find that resource online of what the city's doing, what are things they can do sustainably within the community. What else am I missing here? We have been managing the sustainable.
No, I would say that. Well, that's not on here.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of separate than the work group. Okay, never mind. It used to kind of be a part of it. That's shifted as well.
We have significant challenges with social media.
Yes,
There was originally a sustainability page through the city, but then something happened or a decision was made and that wasn't going to work because it wasn't staffed well. And sustainability commission members couldn't run it. And then we tried a public one, but that has not been successful based on no one doing it. And also, and that, but also, there's like significant challenges using social media because of funding. So unless we have funding to like actually do promotional of the content along with content creation consistently, it's not a valuable tool right now. It's like not a valuable tool. And so people are even still going to the old commission site. But the government Facebook pages just have like some level of, I don't know, people get pointed there more quickly when you're on stuff and you get seen stuff. So it's really not a great tool that we have.
yes. The notify me though, and that might be something your group can.
I thought you asked.
Yeah, I know we kind of talked about it, but the city, for those of you who don't know, the city has a resource page where if you want to be notified of certain topics within the city, I think like Parks and Rec has a tab and maybe the Conservation Corps, and I don't know all of them off the top of my head. Yeah, so you'll get sent information, like if there's a notice going out or a press release or something related to that. But I could see that we've talked about how, a sustainability notify me might make sense too. And I could see that tying in with the city's effort on the webpage, because I feel like those sorts of items tie together. So I don't know, maybe that's something we can talk about more, Melissa, but just another good way to notify people of what we're doing sustainably within the city. And that just gets sent to whatever email you provide.
Yeah, so the notify me is, if you go to the main web page of the city's website and you scroll down, it's in the lower third of that web page. And you click on that and basically it's like a subscription service that you can subscribe or unsubscribe to for a variety of things. So there's the Conservation Corps newsletter, there's the Energized Green Bay newsletter that you can sign up for, Mayor Genrich's newsletter, Public Art newsletter, the Wildlife Sanctuary newsletter. So there's a lot of different newsletters that you can sign up for. You do have to submit an email address and then you get notified when there's something new. So then you can just, it pops into your inbox. And then there's other things like detours and alerts, emergency alerts that you can sign up for, bid postings, which, anyone, when things go out for RFP. And then there's calendar notifications you can sign up for. There's a ton of different things you can sign up for through that. So
We're gonna do that.
We've talked
Yeah,
about.
what is the
should
barrier?
we?
Because everyone else has one, so
Right.
why are we not?
But what's the conduit? Is there a sustainability newsletter?
There's just announcements, sustainability announcements.
Meeting minutes.
Yeah, maybe even agenda.
Well, that's
or
not
like-
through Civic Clerk. Anybody can
True.
sign up for notifications whenever meetings are published. When a new meeting is published, that's all part of the normal thing that you can do through the city's website under the meetings and agendas.
So citizens can get notified.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Can it be announcements? So if there was a random newsletter, then that would be an announcement.
Or like,
Or can it just be called
updated the work
sustainability initiatives?
Or maybe.
What are we sending?
It's like,
Like a
okay,
press
for this,
release?
Van Beaver Park, you could send
Right.
whoever's on the email list a notification that this meeting's happening.
Oh.
The clean energy plan got approved. Come to the council, like the council member is gonna be voting on the clean energy plan, you would send them that.
Okay.
Like really city-driven initiatives that have and like announcement related information.
Right.
Mhm.
The common council passed the clean energy plan.
Well, there's public
Find it here.
notices. You can sign up for different public notices, policy changes.
Yeah. So anyway, this is maybe
Opportunity.
just like thinking about the next year, we could
Yeah.
talk about future.
So if that sounded interesting, that discussion sounded interesting to anyone, talk to
Marketing.
marketing, yes, thank you. I was like, what committee? Marketing and Public Outreach Committee. And that's Corey and Julia. So again, if you liked that conversation, if that sounded like something you want to contribute to, that's the way you can do it. Anything else that you want to say on that before we move on, Corey or Julia? The last one that's not reflected here, because we've just more recently added it, is the Youth Engagement Working Group, which is really designed to meet with students in the Green Bay area to get feedback from them about sustainability initiatives and to give them an opportunity to have their voices heard, and then to connect to a potential volunteer base, for example. And Ned and I are on that subcommittee or work group together. So at the bottom part of the work plan, you'll see some just guidance around criteria for taking on new issues and then goals and principles for each issue area. So just a good point of reference, if you have an idea, check the work plan, check if it fits one of the, like those criteria, and then go to the appropriate work group, or if one doesn't exist, you can bring it up at a commission meeting so we can vote on adding a work group. Which brings us to, how do you bring things up to the Sustainability Commission? Melissa has put together an awesome template for us to use to submit agenda items. This has come up recently when it kind of came to our attention that the only way Common Council sees like what we're doing here is if it's a formal agenda item. So they don't get meeting minutes, for example, they don't hear all of our discussion. So in order to have for city council and or the mayor or any of those groups that we're advising on, in order for them to know what we're doing, we need to get it on the agenda in a formal way. So to that end,
I was just gonna say, point of clarification,
Yes.
that anybody can watch a recording.
yes,
So, I mean, any council
they're
person,
reported, yeah.
public, can watch it. But as far as like what gets reported out to on the Common Council report,
What gets
under all of
pushed
the
out to them.
different commission reports, if it's not a voted on item, I mean, not approve the agenda, approve the minutes, but under regular business, generally speaking, it doesn't get reported out. That's just the practice.
Yeah.
So,
So to that end, we've started working on formalizing the process to make it easier for us as commission members to get stuff on the agenda in a way that's gonna actually, get pushed out in front of Common Council and the mayor, which has brought us to the template that Melissa put together for agenda items. So one, have a title for the agenda item, that's how it's gonna appear in the agenda that goes out. And then which category, so if you look at an agenda, it falls into categories of regular business, informational, work group update, announcement, or presentation. So kind of when you send it to Melissa and I, which is how you will get this information on, you would send it to Melissa and or I. Say, what's the title and which category would it fall under? And then she has a great little, snippets for each item. So for example, I'm talking with someone that I think would be really good at, have a really valuable presentation related to the Clean Energy Working Group. I sent this like snippet to him. I just said, hey, can you provide a title, background information, like a summary of what you would talk about, and then like your presentation so that I can share that. Fiscal impact, likely most things are gonna be none,
Right.
when it's normal things. But just get in the habit of filling this, kind of following this format. That's gonna give Melissa everything she needs to put together the agenda. And it's gonna help us place where, in our, year of monthly meetings, it's gonna make sense for it to go. If it's a presentation, for example, or to make sure we get it accurately reflected on the agenda for that month. For work groups, this is one that's come up specifically. Again, when we give just verbal work group updates, it doesn't go out to in the official meeting notes. And so we're asking that work groups, when you have something to share as an update for your work group, if you can follow this format and just submit. If you don't have anything, that's fine. If we don't hear anything from you, we'll assume you don't have an update. If you do have an update for your work group, just follow this format. I actually pulled up, when I did this month, I pulled up the ordinance that established us. I pulled up the work plan and I pulled up the template, and I just made sure that I was aligning with those things in my work group update. And it made it really simple. And then I was able to be sure that I was saying something that mattered in the context of what we're trying to accomplish here. So I guess little tip, but please use this. And Melissa, agenda items should be submitted to you by,
They should be, sent to me. Really, like anytime leading up to the meeting, but no later than the Friday morning before, the week before the meeting. So typically we have the third Wednesday. That's our typical meeting date, is the third Wednesday. So by that second Friday morning, because City Hall closes at 11:30 now on Fridays. So I would need to have the agenda published before I leave work at 11:30 on Friday.
so Melissa and I meet Tuesday mornings to plan the agenda. So if you're able to get it by Tuesday morning so that we can kind of.
Yeah,
Is that why you were asking for it before then at that? Okay.
Yeah, so you send that out like.
usually
a week
I always send
before
it like a week to a week
Yeah.
and a half, because we meet.
on Tuesday.
Great,
Mhm.
that's helpful.
And so that's the target.
So that we have,
Absolute deadline is
discussing,
Friday.
yeah.
Yep,
yeah,
because there's legal requirements to
Right.
give notice before an agenda item is added.
exactly. So basically, like, if you know you're gonna have an update, Julia, but you're not sure of the exact content of it, like, I know I'm gonna have a workup, but it's not like you don't have all of the details worked out before Krista and I meet. You could still say, Melissa, I know I'm gonna have an agenda item. Can you make sure that there's a placeholder for it?
Mhm.
And then on that, by like 8 o'clock in the morning on Friday before the meeting, just send me what you have and I can add it to the agenda. Cause otherwise, it's like, I just don't want all this stuff coming like at one time, basically. It just gives me more time to plan it out.
But if you have a presentation.
Yeah,
Idea,
presentations
ideally by
should-
Tuesday.
Yeah,
So
because
that,
we need all the slides.
and so we can just know, what are we doing for this meeting? We have a presentation. Should we talk about something else?
Well, thank you very much for the template. This is really appreciated. And then I also appreciate the reminders to send you stuff. I
And
know it's
if
an extra
it's-
thing for you, but
yeah.
I really appreciate
If it's
those.
helpful,
Me too.
what I can do is, the meeting date list that was sent out, I can send a revised one with when agenda items are due with those dates. I don't know if you all think that would be helpful to have,
I would just, sometimes you do change it, like if you're, I don't know, going on vacation.
right,
Somet- I never feel like it's always this exact same time. Sometimes you're requesting stuff.
Yeah, if I'm out on a Friday, I'm
Yeah.
gonna
So-
say I need it by Thursday, right? Yeah,
For me, I can say the reminders that you send like monthly, or like, hey, don't forget to send me your agenda items. I don't think about it other than when I get that reminder, and then I keep it in my inbox until I respond to you. Like, that's my method.
mhm,
And I think you did this last time, you included this this
Mhm.
template. You've maybe done that before, but I definitely clocked it this time, and that was really helpful too.
I think I've done it twice now,
Okay, awesome, yeah.
the template.
So really helpful. I also, again, kept that work plan right next to it, and that really helped guide what I included in my update. Anything else on like how to bring something up, what we're trying to accomplish here? I would love to be in a position where at some point we can plan like a couple meetings ahead, like what presentations are gonna be. So if you have ideas of presentations you think would work well in this work plan, ideally, we would love for a presentation to align with something in the work plan. So if you have ideas about what that might be, please feel free to send it to us, even if you don't have everything fleshed out. And you know, we can start thinking ahead a little bit about what presentations might be. One of our goals, and we're over our target time as I say this, but one of our goals is to keep meetings as close to 5 to 6 p.m. as we can. If we need to go over, we will. We're here, you know, especially if there's an important item we're discussing. But that's gonna be our target, and we're gonna be working up toward being more efficient and planning meetings accordingly, right? So we're not trying to pack too much into a meeting. That's our target. Melissa, did I skip anything in what we talked about?
Think so. I think you covered that pretty well. You know, if anybody has clarifying questions on agenda, you know, how to phrase something or how much content for an agenda. Basically, like if you're asking, like, hey, I think this would be a really good grant opportunity for the city, and I want this as like a work group update, or maybe it's an announcement or something like that, always send the links to it. If there's any required match, you could put that under potential fiscal impacts, things like that. If it's, you know, just include as much information as you can, just knowing that, you know, we probably don't want to have a 100-page agenda packet, but you know, all that stuff helps.
And I'll just add that, you know, one of the reasons that we're moving towards some of this is that you're all really high value professionals, and we want to make the most impact with the time you're contributing to this commission. So to that end, if anyone has recommendations about how we can be more effective or impactful with our time together or the work that we're doing, please recommend it. We really want to see this be high impact. I will also say, again, I have met with some other sustainability commission members from other cities, and it sounds like we're doing pretty well in that department comparatively as a point of reference. So that's good. You know, we're getting some stuff done and we're moving forward. And I think, you know, I appreciated, Ned, what you shared kind of from historic where we came from to where we are today. It seems like we've made a lot of good progress and we want to keep building on that. So always open to ideas about how to do that better. Any other conversation on this agenda item? All right, so for our motion, I've got receive and place these items on file. Refresh the work plan as needed to reflect 2025 updates, and put the work plan on the website. Anything to add to that?
I think Julia had a question earlier about like resolutions, you know, that have gone through this commission that have passed, and where can you find them executed? Maybe perhaps we could post that somewhere as well, if it's, I don't think
How
it
did we
is.
get that?
Well, they didn't necessarily go through the they were started, but they, you know, they always are executed by common council, so.
Sure. But maybe ones that have gone through commission, we could put, because we don't necessarily
Yeah,
need to say we want every single resolution that's gone through the city.
right, that's right,
You know?
yeah. Do you want those posted to under the Sustainability Commission, under that webpage?
Perhaps
Maybe we
if
could
they
call
are
it
initiated,
achievements?
or, yeah, something.
You're kind of getting away from the achievements thing.
Oh,
We had a
okay.
huge discussion about that like last year.
Okay.
Because it's the city, it's not like achievements of one particular commission. This is like, you know,
Right,
Contributions?
everybody.
but maybe it's under that
Oh.
sustainability page, maybe not the
Yeah.
commission, but the
Yeah.
page you guys are working on.
Yeah. Actually, was hoping to, you said post them.
Yeah.
I guess that's fine for the sustainability one. It's more about, I feel like there's some just outdated stuff on our page even, like even just updating the commission page in general. I don't know. What's on there still, but
We can definitely look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get that updated.
thank you.
Do we need to make a formal?
No. I just want to say refer to staff.
Oh, do you want that? Is that useful or not really?
I'll do it.
Okay. All right, so is there anything else that we want to add to that motion? So we want to update this work plan to reflect kind of current state. Receive it and place on file and update the website. Anyone want to help me structure a motion that reflects that appropriately? Unless it doesn't matter, which is great, but I feel like these things tend to matter.
Sometimes another.
Next.
And I'm sorry, like we're.
I know, I was thinking about Ned too. I was just thinking, I mean, you could, you know, as just a suggestion, you can receive and place on file and post the amended 2024-25 work plan to the Sustainability Commission webpage. All the other things will just
Mhm.
happen.
I have a question. I'm like, are we not doing a 25-26 work plan?
We will at the end of 25. We tend to update these at the end. So
For 2
2024,
years, yeah.
we updated like, here's what we've done, here's our plan for 2025. So at the end of 2025, we would say, here's what we've done, here's our plan for 26. Is that not that was, I've
And
been
then are
through
we gonna
one
be giving
session of this.
update? No, I don't think that's what I remember, but I could be wrong. I don't think there was a real system before.
Oh, okay.
So
I've been through it once. I just assumed that's how we always did it.
uh, maybe we did it in 2024,
So,
but it's 2025 now. So I'm just saying,
so
like,
the
it's
work
weird to
plan
have something
says
that says
24/25.
I know it seems odd, and then especially if we're updating it for the
Yeah.
future year. And so then are we also taking this time before the next meeting to update it, to send in updates to it? Because that's what we would normally do too, is we would send the chair our
Sure,
updates,
yeah.
and then vote and place on file. So I
So
don't
do
know
we
if
need
we're
to do
at
any
that
action
point
right now?
I would still receive this someplace on file so
Okay.
that these documents are part of the record,
Okay.
and then next month, you know, in between now and the next meeting, send all of the updates, you know, whether we're, you know, obviously removing the old chair's name
Yeah.
off of the work plan and things of that nature, update your membership of your work groups, and if there's other partners that you want to list, send those to Krista, get that updated. It can go on the next agenda, and then you can say, okay, this is our work plan for the
And then
rest
we
of the year.
receive and place on file and post to the website at that point. Again, we receive and place on file again, and then vote
Sure.
to post
Yeah.
on the website.
But the post on the
Okay.
website to me should be the
After, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. So right now, we're just gonna receive and place on file. Is that
Yes, I make that motion.
great? I second it.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, Ned gets it. Ned takes it. Great. All in favor of
Just a
receiving?
second, I have to get
Oh,
back to the screen where we have all
Sorry.
this. Okay, so Alder Presley made the motion.
yes. Ned made the second.
Okay.
All in favor of receiving this and placing it on file?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So received and placed. All right. Thank you for bringing that up and clarifying. So work group leaders, update your sections. If anyone wants to join a work group, get in touch with the work group leader so you can get listed on the work plan. And then we will put it on the website once we get it kind of updated for 2025. Yes, excellent. Then we're gonna move on to the informational section of our agenda with work group reports. Would you like to share the work group report, Jenny, for the Clean Energy Group?
You betcha. All right, the Clean Energy Work Group has formed a Green Bay Large Energy Users Roundtable. And, Krista and I put together some contacts, and we had some help from John Arndt at UWGB and Amy Cox at NWTC, but we have pulled together folks from those organizations as well as Oneida, Focus on Energy, and Friends with New North. And we've also had participation from WPS and let's see, I'm looking through the attendees. I think that pretty much covers it. We've also invited Tom from Brown County to attend this roundtable as well. But we held our first roundtable on October 25th of 2024 and really just put together the goals of that group. And just to remind everybody, the Clean Energy Plan of December 2023 laid out where our carbon emissions come from. And about 72% of the city's carbon emissions in that plan came from the commercial and industrial sector. So that's the purpose of us forming this large energy users roundtable. So we're really just trying to bring the group together to share resources. All of these folks that are part of this group work directly with large energy users or provide some resources for helping them track their energy, save energy. And we want to make sure that we're helping the city track progress towards reducing the carbon emissions. And on that note, besides goal of helping people share resources to reduce the emissions, we want to track those emissions. So we have gotten some data from Focus on Energy and some help from WPS, or at least to find the sources of data, because those energy is really where a lot of our emissions are coming from that are part of that plan. And their next round table will be held on February 4th at NWTC, the same place we held the first one at 11 a.m. If you're interested in coming to that, let us know. I know Krista, Amy Cox, and I will be there. And we will be getting a presentation from Alex Lang, the new NWTC project manager of the Industrial Assessment Center that NWTC is part of. And that group should be pretty helpful because they provide free energy audits, or they have historically the industrial assessment centers, and they are student provided. So I just love that effort because not only are they giving large energy users energy audits, but they're also educating students on how to do that with that industrial assessment center.
And then it can sometimes unlock additional funding, like grant funding, once you've gotten an industrial assessment center assessment, so.
Yeah, because that's the Department of Energy funded group. All right, that's my report.
Thank you so much. Any questions or feedback on that work group? Right, then next we have the youth engagement work group, and I can just share a quick update. We do have a Green Bay high school student who is actively recruiting middle and high school students to be on the student advisory committee. She thinks that we can potentially have our first meeting with them within Q1. So stay tuned. That's still the goal. We exchange emails like once a month, and it sounds like she's working on it. So, yeah, any questions about that one? All right, do we need a motion to receive and place on file? I move that we receive and place on file our work group updates. Anyone have a second?
Second.
Excellent, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Passed. Thank you. Then we're on to staff reports. Melissa.
There's a couple staff reports attached. One was from the city's utility manager for the stormwater utilities. She included a summary of green stormwater infrastructure improvements for 2024. She provided a memo and then a table that showed, you know, the locations, the site name, and then the stormwater management practice that was. If you're looking on your screen, anything green was designated as green stormwater infrastructure. And then the other ones are not quite totally in that category, but she put everything on there. So roughly about 50% of the permitted post-construction stormwater management practices do fall into the GSI category. So that's in there for your review. I will try to answer questions on that if anyone has any on Valerie's memo.
Are these complete or just permitted?
These are permitted in
Okay.
2024 and, yeah, permitted. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they're installed.
Okay.
It's great to see.
And then our clean energy connector, Alex, provided an update for the Energized Green Bay campaign. The website is launched. We had a press conference last month for a project that's being done at Villa West Housing Facility, a big solar project that's happening there. And then a couple of different grant updates. But the big thing is he's going to be hosting neighborhood meetings at 8 different neighborhood associations over the next couple of months. So that's pretty exciting. He's made a lot of progress in a short period of time with doing outreach in the community. And then we're also going to have a booth at the Home Expo show at the Resch Center coming up. So hopefully being able to meet a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people from the whole region that go to that Home Expo, but we'll have a table there handing out different information about the energy rebates and the inflation and the tax credits and focus on energy information. So yeah, does anyone have any questions on the Energized Green Bay report?
Only one, there's listed upcoming partnerships that includes a post NFL draft small business sustainability summit with Business News. Do you know any more about that?
I have a little bit more detail that he sent me. He contacted the Business News, if you know who they are. I think he has a pretty good contact there. So it would be sometime in, after the draft.
Oh, so it's high level,
Yeah,
right?
host.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very high level.
It's just like we can't do it right now until after the draft.
Well,
sort of
because
thing.
I think the original date that was like tossed out there was sometime in April. And he recommended not doing anything in April in Green Bay.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, okay. Great.
So that would be small businesses and nonprofits.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I thought I had a few updates, but I'm not seeing them here. Maybe I forgot to save them. As far as a couple of updates that I put into the agenda.
One says about Wisconsin Emergency Management and the pre-disaster flood.
Oh, sure. So we received news late last month, the city received news late last month that our application for grant funding through Wisconsin Emergency Management's pre-disaster flood resilience grant, it's a mouthful. And it's the first year that they've ever offered this particular funding mechanism for pre-disaster, specifically for flood resilience. And we were selected. So it's going to go through the formal acceptance process through committee and through common council. But this is a huge first step with the funding that we've been applying for. So this is for $250,000. And then we're waiting to hear on some of the other grants that were applied for as well. So we should be able to, that'll probably have a start date of near the end of June.
Yeah, and I would just add that, like talking to the funder, it's really, really obviously a big step for this project in general, but
Right.
this is a really big deal. This is the first time they offered this across the state, and they had many, many more applications than they had funding. And so it was very competitive, and they were very excited about the city of Green Bay's application.
And I'm
So-
sorry, I should have prefaced this more for people that aren't as familiar, but this is for the flood resiliency wetland restoration at Emily Park. At East River Emily Park.
Awesome.
And then,
The sustainable events guidance.
oh, the sustainable events guidance right now is, it's gonna go to development team and some members of senior staff to review that draft sustainable events guidance that the commission put together. And then that should be back for February,
So.
on the
we
February agenda.
Incorporated updates, and now it's going through the senior staff review process
Mhm.
at the city level, which was kind of a late stage notice that
Mhm.
it needed to go through that review process, so we thought it might be ready
Mhm.
to finalize today.
Yeah.
But
That was my mistake.
it had.
I
to
thought
go
that it could
through.
go back to our committee, I took back to your committee right away. But it needs to go through a little bit more.
Vetting.
Mhm.
The good news is then there shouldn't be any more roadblocks, right? It should have the buy-in of senior staff, the mayor's office.
And these are recommendations, these aren't
Right.
mandates, so I've stressed that.
Yeah, and so that can give it, I think, a higher likelihood of being well received. Right? And still be shared in time for some draft planning. So, we'll plan to do our final vote on that, next month. And then you kind of talked about this, but the resiliency and sustainability staff team, do you want to say any more about that, Melissa?
We had our kickoff meeting for the staff resilience. It's either gonna be the sustainability and resilience team, but it's an internal team. We have at our kickoff meeting, on Monday, we had 13 people in attendance from 8 different departments, which is
And
really
it was all
great.
voluntary, right?
Yeah, this is all voluntary, you know, there's just a lot of good expertise within all the different departments of the city. Different interests, whether it's electric vehicles, it could be, you know, waste reduction, energy management, electrification, renewables, it's very wide range of interests, so we are, you know, we went through some of the initial goals of that team. And we're also going to be utilizing that team when we do our annual reporting for the DNR's Green Tier Legacy Community Report, which is a pretty heavy lift of an annual report. And so, yeah. And so right now, our plan is to meet quarterly and then more frequently for smaller groups.
Awesome. So there's like an internal sustainability advisory team and an external. one.
Yeah, well, I would think this is more of like an internal, like, you know, not just advisory, but you know, like.
Doing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, and really
Fantastic.
coordinating and communicating our efforts across the city within the departments so that we're just more collaborative in nature. I mean, there's a lot of federal grants that different departments are applying for, and so there's a lot of room to make our work more efficient.
Awesome. Excellent. Do we need to receive these and place them on file?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Hey, we have a motion to receive and place on file. Any seconds?
Second that one.
Hey, all in favor of receiving this update and placing it on file, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is received. Any final comments?
Who made the motion on that? Was that Mark Walter? Okay.
Only one mark now, so you don't have to.
Yeah. Then our next commission meeting is February 19th, a Wednesday at 5 o'clock. We're we're gonna keep working toward a 1 hour meeting. That's always our goal, especially for those of you who are staff, stay a really long time. So thank you all for sharing your expertise with the community in this way.
Motion to adjourn.
Any
second
seconds?
that.
Hey, we got a second.
Who made the second?
I did.
Jenny. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Adjourn. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.